Hi there, sorry I haven't posted much lately. It's been full on for me, working on a Jamiroquai album. Got my own album coming out June the 6th, keep an eye out for that. Been on tour with Purple Disco Machine, sessions, you name it. But I've got a day off today and I thought I'd come in here and talk about timing. How to improve your internal clock, how to lock in with other people or other sources, how to play in the pocket, weave around the groove to create the feel that you want to create. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, I'd really appreciate a follow and click the alert bell as well. It really helps keep this thing rolling. All right, let's get cracking. One thing when you're trying to stay locked in that can really be your friend is using accents. It helps break up the subdivisions and kind of stops you from tripping over yourself. I'll show you what I mean. I'll play something without accents and then with it, a simple 8-beat sort of pattern. Now with accents. So like if I was going to play that sort of part and there's no drums going on at that time, I would almost accentuate maybe the snare beat, so the 2 and 4, but I'd probably syncopate it a bit so it's not always on that. So it'd give me a pulse within the 8s. Then you can move it around. See there as well, I'm making a big deal about the last beat of the sequence before it comes round again. Again, it's just sort of locking me in before I launch into the next 8. I'm really exaggerating here, but you get the idea. So those kind of things really help you feel a lot groovier as a player, and it's helping you stay locked in, as opposed to that accenting the snare beat. You're creating a rhythm, even though it's 8s, you're creating a rhythm within that. The same way as a really good drummer will use the hi-hats to sort of create accents within a 16-beat pattern and make it constantly vary and feel kind of groovy and fluid. That's what you can do with keyboards as well. Here's a classic example. Thinking of those rhythms like a drummer thinks of a hi-hat is actually quite a good analogy, because sometimes certain notes can be slightly longer or shorter and it will make it feel different. Imagine that's like the hi-hat slightly opening sometimes and then being a very open, then being a real ticky little closed hi-hat. These little nuances make a massive difference within playing a groove and do help you stay locked in time, I think, because you can feel a strong pulse running through whatever you're playing. One way I practice a lot when I'm in my house and I've just got little 20 minutes, I've got my Rhodes in there with Suitcase Rhodes, and I'll just sit down and I'll play a left-hand accompaniment, bass and chords, and then I'll start soloing on the top of it. It's a very difficult thing to do. It took me years to be able to play the left hand like this, but it's a really good exercise to practice. Even if you can't master it, just give it a go. So you start off just comping with the bass and the chords. This is very difficult in itself. It might take you years to get this together. But then it's great for your independence. Hello? It's not easy by any means, but it's a great way to get your independence between left hand and right hand while staying in a real groove. And you're the groove. You're the one driving the groove, keeping it locked down. Good way to practice. I practice like that quite a lot. So obviously a great way to hone your skills is to practice along with a metronome or a drum machine. I've got a drum machine here set to a 16-beat rhythm, and that's the easiest thing to lock into because each subdivision is being covered with the 16 beats. So you can practice something very simple. I'm just going to play a D9 going to an E9. And just play that with a rhythm and try and really lock it in with the 16 beat and just practice getting it bang on as close as you can. And it's not just about being metronomic, actually. It's just playing it with the right feel, but then consistently sticking to that feel. That's the trick. And once you find the good zone, just try to lock in there. And keep the velocity the same. Notice I'm hitting the last two notes harder. Introduce a very simple bit of left hand. And what that's doing is just playing a 16th before the right hand chords. Gives you that little skip that's lovely. Once you're really in there, you can vary it up a little bit if you want to. Then return to the groove. And what's helping me swing a little bit there is the fact that I'm playing the first note very slightly longer than the second note. So, for instance, with the 16 beat, if I played it exactly as a 16, I'd probably play equal value to each note. Okay, which is a cool thing to practice as well. But here I'm trying to give it a little bit of swing. First note is longer than the second, and that makes it feel like it's swinging. It probably does throw my timing slightly behind with the second beat, the subdivision, and that gives it that feeling like it's quantized. So if you were quantizing it to a swing like 16C, you know, in Logic, it'll sound more like that than swung. Of course, the classic way to practice is with a metronome. I've got a click here which emulates that, and I'm just going to play straight eights and try and really be disciplined, locking in with them. Simple as that. And just get used to that metronomic quality and try and play like that. I believe when you practice like that, you get used to being metronomic and you start to get into that feeling of trying to be very accurate in the intervals between notes. Once you've practiced it like that with eighths, you can take out half the notes and make it fourths. And now a good discipline is to try to make that sound like it's swinging with your playing. So I'm really pushing behind here. Can you hear that? Trying to get as close as I can to the next subdivision to create that real heavy swing. And even if you're practicing solo stuff, you know, soloing, it's great to just practice with a click like that, because then you're not just drifting all over the place. You know, you're going to discipline yourself. It's also really cool to play with a click like that and still try and retain your feel, you know, because you can turn into a bit of a robot when you're hearing a click all the time. And the people that are really good with clicks are the ones that can play them, still move alongside them and keep a human feeling, but obviously observing the click the whole time. So I'm dancing, you know, in and out of it, but I'm aware of it all the time. Even if I'm going to drift behind, I know where the click is and I'm staying in with it. So that's really good practice. And then again, half that click, much harder. That helps you sort of develop your own clock a little bit. When you've got less, you know, let's have even less. See, I'm flying up and down, but it doesn't matter, you can't do that, just... Playing with less click like that, it's making me internalize the groove. Because when you've got the 16s going and all that, you can rely on the click to keep you in time. When you're starting to do this stuff, you're forced to be the click, really. Great practice to keep going like that. Okay, let's halve it again. I won't be accurate with this. Really good practice that is, you know, because then it's your internal clock you're developing. You're really learning to internalize that clock and try to keep it consistent. We're humans, so we're never going to be perfect to get like that, but it's a really good discipline, I think.